Have you ever wondered, why does it work that way? Or thought, how can we thrive with Medicare Advantage under these conditions? You're not alone. Jenn has wondered all those things and more. Every month, join Jenn Kerfoot and a motley crew of friends as they bring you candid conversations with industry pros, break down important updates, and share insider tips to boost star ratings. Whether you've been around since before Medicare had the advantage or are just starting out, there's always something new to learn. Welcome to Stars Unscripted.
And we're live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me again on an episode of Stars Unscripted. I'm your host, Jenn Kerfoot. And today I'm going to be deviating from our normal topics to bring up, I think, a topic that is relevant to all of us, which is dreaming big. And who else better to bring on the show than my fellow big dreamer, Courtney Best. So, Courtney Best, do you want to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Hi guys, I'm Courtney. I'm the AVP here at Duos for marketing, and I am, like Jenn said, a fellow dreamer and been Jenn's right hand for a couple of years now. So excited to chat with you guys.
Courtney Best is more than my right hand. She's my ride or die full life. So if you've been to any of the conferences on the RISE circuit or with Strategic Solutions, you might have seen me and Courtney together. We met when we were both at Farmbox RX. And of course, now we're here at Duos together. So first, some housekeeping. I didn't really tell Courtney she was going to be on the podcast before she's on the podcast. So listeners, watchers, be kind as you always are, and make sure to follow her on LinkedIn. She's really cool, and if you see her out in the wild with me, make sure you stop by and say hi. So when I'm thinking about big dreams, I think about the first dream I had, which is when I was at a health plan, is like, how can we grow this health plan? How can we make our members love us? How can we make them understand, why we keep asking them to do an annual wellness visit and close all these HEDIS gaps in our star ratings? Of course, I've talked a lot about Anna Hanshu and I doing our roadshow, educating members about stars and really understanding their benefits and making them better consumers of their health plan experience. Also, when we're at Farmbox RX, we talked a lot about health literacy and how we could really empower members to take, better care of themselves. And also, ultimately, by taking better care of themselves, they model, especially those Medicaid members, better, healthy experiences to their children and so forth and so forth. And then that generation benefits. And so, I think a lot of times amidst, a lot of uncertainty that's going on in the federal government or even just in your personal life, sometimes we forget about, those big dreams and we just focus on how do I get through today. So sometimes I like to take a step back, even when life feels stressful or when I'm working on a handful of various different projects, and go back to, some big wins and some big dreams. And one of those things that I think about a lot is our Duos experience booth that's Connections for a Cause. And so when I thought about big dreams, I thought it'd be kind of fun, Courtney, for us to get to talk a little bit about how an idea that was, I think, like on a napkin at a WeWork became what it is today. And it's like a very big experiential booth that's donated, thousands of dollars to some really incredible community champions. So Courtney, as Connections for Cause is your baby, do you want to tell the good people what it is?
Yeah, actually, I think that was the first thing we ended up working on when I came to Duos too, which was super exciting. It was an idea that we had, a noodle doodle, as we like to call them when Jenn and I get together. A lot of times it's a noodle when we call it like a brainstorming session, and a doodle when there's pictures involved. So this was a noodle and a doodle. So it involved kind of brainstorming really what we wanted to do, which was a lot of times we had gone to all these conferences and kind of just seen these elaborate booths and kind of all the money that goes into giving out branded tchotchkes and kind of a lot of the waste that ends up being accumulated from all of those events and different types of things that we had attended in the past. And I just remember Jenn and I at one conference were just like, I wonder, like if we had taken all this money, I bet we would have, that we had invested in some of these experiences and a lot of just seeing all the other sponsors at that event and just put it towards our members or put it towards solving a critical issue, it would have made a really big impact. So I think when we got to Duos, we really wanted to challenge ourselves to not only think about the brand and how we want to make ourselves kind of marketable and out there and get our name in front of other people. It was also about how can we be doing good. So that's kind of where the idea came from. And then we ended up working with the best booth builders and fellow dreamers and creative, Moon Lab and Block Lab Productions, who just brought the vision of our idea of having an interactive booth while also donating to life, which was one of the best experiences I've had in my career for sure. So
I definitely love that you said like we brought in and other big dreamers with us. So I think that when I think about dreaming and think of like things that I lay awake at night thinking of things I want to build, things I want to do, dreams by yourselves are kind of like small, but when you kind of like, bring people together, you can accomplish a whole heck of a lot of good. And so I think of like for connections for a cause, one of the things that we created was like that hashtag of like the power of connections, which is, really it's kind of a B2B call to what we do at Duos, but also what that experience is. And what's more incredible, I think, of how, really you took a lot of incoherent scribbles and drawings that I had done and brought it to life, was thinking not only how can we be connected to the members that we serve and the communities that we serve, but also to the other folks in the industry where we have, the super duo where, duos, we might not be able to donate, hundreds and hundreds of $1,000 like we would want, but our friends can also shout out to Bold, GA Foods, and Soda Health, who have been our super duo, who have essentially every dollar that we've donated, they've doubled. So us by ourselves, we can't really make as big of an impact as we wanted, but together we can, which I think is just been incredible to watch people respond while talking to us at the booth as we go on the road.
mm-hmm.
And I know like Courtney, you've like done a lot of work, not just within healthcare, but even outside of healthcare. And I know that you always like to think about, an end-to-end experience. And I know that I put you on the spot today, but I think one of the best things that anyone's ever told me across my entire career, or actually in my life, I attribute to you, and saying, it's like, all alcohol is the same. But what distinguishes Tito's from Grey Goose? It's the brand, and the brand is really you're building a world where people want to live in it. And I think like when you think about like the dreams that we have and how we brought connections for a cause to life, like what is that kind of world that you feel like Connections for a Cause kind of builds, where people are just naturally want to gravitate towards it?
Yeah, I think kind of the space that we play in really kind of helped dictate the world too, in terms of what we did with Connections for a Cause. So, we pull in a lot of resources for our members, and a lot of those resources can be federal or state and even sometimes nonprofit resources. So, in terms of thinking like, hey, we're directing members to, sign up for SNAP or kind of go to their local food bank if they're food insecure, what are ways then that we can think about giving back to those organizations to kind of close that loop of, yay, we're not just, referencing, we're also trying to find ways that we can give back to the great organizations that are helping our members too. So it's not, I think, Jenn, you had a really great, story about this, that there's a lot of people that need help in terms of navigating the healthcare space. And people are just kind of looking for, a hand to help them in terms of understanding how to navigate this system. And there's so many great companies and so many great organizations and different types of programs out there that can really benefit our members. And so kind of thinking that the way that we wanted to get involved too was, to bring an interactive booth to life, and then also kind of give back to, see, I'm losing myself, like talking in circles. I can't.
No, you're not. Just keep going. You just got to go with the flow. Just got to go with the flow.
I feel like I even got off topic with what you were asking me, which is building the brand.
You just have to talk about, just like you also can answer whatever question you want.
Yeah.
Answer the question you want to answer, not the question I ask. Just roll with it. And action.
Yeah. So I think in terms of building the brand world for Duos, I think our biggest thing that I wanted to accomplish was recognizing the great organizations that we get to partner with, because we're not just doing it alone. We're not navigating this on our own. We're working and collaborating with not only our payer partners and our clients, but also the great kind of state, federal, and nonprofit organizations that are helping our members on the local level. So I think the world that I really wanted people to associate with Duos was thinking about how it's all interconnected, and that we're not just out for ourselves, that we want to also give back to these great organizations, and that we all kind of can work together to help and find the right resource or the right type of care or break down a barrier, especially if somebody is food insecure, kind of figuring out what's the best kind of program. Is it SNAP? Is it a local food bank? Is it maybe that they need some transportation? But I think for us, we just really wanted to have that interconnection of the power of connections really being that world, and that we're not just promoting ourselves, but we're also giving back to the great organizations that are also kind of serving our members in different aspects. So
I think it definitely always leaves me feeling good. Like when I see people that come and interact with us and play the Plinko experience. And if you're at Rise National in a couple weeks, you should definitely come by and see what we're talking about live in the wild, in real life, IRL, as the youths say. Because I think every time I see it, no matter how many times we have physically put that booth together, you and I, and it's a beast. It weighs like 990 pounds.
oh yeah,
she thick. But no matter how many times we put that thing together, when I take 2 steps back after it's up and I look at it, every time I see it, I just am filled with like, this is the physical manifestation of a dream that was once on a napkin in a WeWork when we first started at Duos. And I think, a lot of times folks reaching out to me, they ask me about, career advice, work-life balance, policy advice, star ratings, a lot of handful of topics people reach out to me for. But, one of them is like, Jenn, I'm really frustrated because things that I want to do, I just can't seem to get them out the door. And not only am I realizing that I have become jaded, but I just am really like, that's affecting all other areas in my life, inclusive of like my family, like my friends are feeling it, that I'm just not happy. And I think I always like to think about connections for a cause because, one, like the idea that you and I had on the back of the napkin, there was no way we could have pulled that off on our own. We needed, an organization, Duos, Carl, our CEO, that believed in that vision. It was like, yeah, it's your budget, bring it to life. He had a lot of belief and faith that we would be able to execute and deliver a great, experience that was worthy of the brand. But also, the Moonies at Moon Lab and Block Lab, who responded to an email at, almost midnight. I was looking at that email earlier today where I was just like, you know what? We don't have a lot of money. And by that, we don't have hardly any money. I get it. But guess what? We have lots of dreams and we're big, big believers. And, even if, I don't have money, I have a lot of like friends, and anything that I have that I can give you, I'll share. And, Cassandra, the CEO, she messaged me back, and, we had talked since then saying, when she first started out, she really was trying to get into, production and building the booth. And I won't spoil her full story, but Uber ended up, really taking a chance on her. And so I think she saw that in us and wanted to pass that along. So I think that if you put your dream out there, and you believe in it and you're willing to do the work to see it, come to life, I just feel like naturally the universe kind of brings people, like-minded people, to you. I know that like you had found the Moonies and you had found Moon Lab Productions, and we had, mocked up a bunch of ideas about what Connections for a Cause could be. Looking back, did you think that we would have pulled it off? We're over a year later having the booth.
Yeah, I just remember thinking, oh, this budget is going to be, we're not like experiences. And I'm sure anyone in the event or marketing logistics side just knows how expensive these things can be. So it was we were like, this is a big dream. This is a big dream, but we're going to see what the budget's going to look like. And we're going to try to make it happen, or we're going to figure out what our plan B is and plan C, and we're going to go from there. And I think at first I just was anticipating like, this is going to be too much. We're going to have a lot of roadblocks, or how are we going to bring this to life in like the 3 months that we wanted to build and launch this in. And getting that, like you throwing that Hail Mary out to Cassandra and just being like, hey, we have a lot of passion, we have a lot of drive, we have a great network, we just really want to do this. And it's all about giving back too. Like, we're not planning to invest in any of our own branded swag. Like, we're putting all those marketing funds back into donating. So, you know, if you interact with our booth, it's basically tracks the duo dollar, and then that dollar goes from our marketing budget that we would have spent on, you know, a chapstick or a piece of a pouch, or, you know, whatever you're kind of getting out, socks. We're taking that money and instead we're donating it directly to great organizations like US Hunger and Psych Armor, who we've gotten to work with, which is also such a great privilege to kind of work with these amazing organizations that are doing such great things for members and people just out in our communities. So it's when we, you know, came with that idea, they just loved it too, and they loved every aspect of it. And I know Cassandra is very, you know, philanthropic as well, and just the angle that we went with it just was awesome to have that collaboration with them. And then, you know, even our Kim, who's an incredible, amazing designer.
Shout out to Kim.
Shout out to Kim.
Shout out to Kim.
You know, doesn't usually design in 3-dimension, and, you know, putting her up to that challenge too of taking on the creative ask to design the entire booth and bring the vision to life with, you know, their team then building it was such a great collaboration and great growth moment to watch her kind of really excel in that moment too. So it's just been very rewarding. And like you said too, every time the booth gets built, I just smile. And now we got it down, like, we can get that thing up in 45 minutes, and it's like,
we're like a pit crew. It's like,
but it is such a, like, I just can't help but smile and feel very, very proud of a lot of big dreams and that dream coming to life, especially because it was, like you said, on the back of a napkin. It did take, you know, Carl believing in our vision too, and that we could bring it to life in a not extremely expensive, but also in a very tasteful way too, which I think the booth itself really is a great piece of art.
I couldn't agree more. And, you know, I think a lot of times, like, and when I reflect personally on my career and things that I'm proud about, it's very rare that you have something that you can, at least in our industry, that when you reflect on it, there's like something that's like you can touch and you can feel, that's like a physical manifestation of something that came together. And so I think that's one thing that makes Connections for a Cause so unique to me. And it's just, you know, watching you bring it to life and coordinate it, and watching Kim really step outside of her comfort zone to design it where it looks so gorgeous, I think was really fulfilling for me as a leader, but also just to witness so many entities coming together and rallying around this idea together. And so, like, thinking about like takeaways that I hope listeners have is like, one, if you have a dream, like, don't keep it to yourself. Like, I talk a lot about, you know, we need to democratize understanding within our industry. We need to embrace a abundance mentality versus a scarcity mentality. Like, I hope every single, you know, vendor in those expo halls wants to copy our idea. I hope that this is something that doesn't just stay with us. It wasn't like a proprietary idea that only we can do. I hope everyone can embrace this idea that we have more than enough to make anything we want to do come true. We just have to maybe work together or resequence the pieces. So, like, if you have a dream, don't keep it to yourself. Put it out there. The second thing I think, and it really comes back to, you know, we had gone back and forth kind of with Moon Lab and some other folks about like building Connections for a Cause. And we got back some quotes that I'm like, that's out of our budget. And I remember you saying, you know, Jen, I get it. Like, that's not our budget of where we are now, but maybe I can do something with Kim. Maybe we can work something that's digital. Maybe we can rethink of how we're doing it so we can still have the spirit of what we wanted, maybe just not exactly how we originally drew it out. And I'm going to go back to the drawing board because I still believe in this, even though we hit a roadblock. And I think I remember exactly where I was standing at my counter in Nashville when you called and you were telling me this. And I remember being like, nah, like, if Courtney's going to double down on the dream, I'm going to double down on the dream. And I'm going to like send that kind of Hail Mary out to the Moonies being like, I don't got much, but I got big dreams. And I think, you know, a lot of times, you know, when you hit that roadblock in that, you know, that journey of dreaming, it can kind of be defeating and you want to be like, I give up. So my second kind of takeaway is like, if you hit that roadblock, like, be willing to pivot, but also be willing to double down. And if that double down doesn't work, like maybe like Courtney playing blackjack, then maybe, if you know, you know, then, you know, be willing to pivot and like remind yourself, like, what is the origin of that dream? it and not be so invested. It has to be a specific way. It has to look a specific way. Like, what is like that end feeling that you want people leaving or having that experience to leave with? Or what is like the ultimate intent of that, and make sure that you don't lose that along the way. I think that's the second piece of like takeaway I would have. And then I think the third one is a lot of times, like, we are the architects of our own success or of our own misery. And there's a lot of times I think that a lot of big dreams like never see the light of day because they get shut down before they're ever out the door because of like self-doubt, or because you're just like, yeah, no one's gonna like that. That's really stupid. And I don't know what I'm talking about. When in reality, like, when you know, do one of these. Like, so be willing to like throw it out there and be willing to be like, maybe this is right, maybe this is wrong, but have that conviction to at least try. And I think like trying is the first step. There's a lot of things that I think across my career, like, what could you accomplish if you hadn't, been your own like saboteur and like killed it out of the gate. But those were my thoughts when I'm thinking about big dreaming. Courtney, any parting thoughts on big dreams?
Yeah, I think, it's the people you surround yourself with, to be honest. Like the team that we have, the leadership that we have, and, you believing in my dream made me believe in my dream, then pass it on, to Kim, then believing in the dream, and so on and so forth. It's really that community and who you surround yourself and who, really has your back too. And I think I wouldn't have been able to do it without that support too. So, and then also kind of bringing in, the outside parties that really brought the dream to life too. The community champions, the super duos, our amazing building team, like that. It was just the perfect, combination of all these organizations coming together and believing in one really big dream and being inspired and being really passionate about it too. So I think it can be very contagious when you kind of have this dream too of wanting to do something good and really involving these good groups of people and good people around you can really spread that mission. So
I love that. So the theme is double down on big dreams and never give up.
Don't stop dreaming.
Don't stop dreaming. Well, thanks, Courtney, for letting me put you on the spot to join me on this episode of Stars Unscripted. I'm your host, Jenn Kerfoot, and I'll see you next time. Bye. All right, you're good.
I didn't look at myself the entire